do you want to take pictures like this, or this, or this in VRChat? Well, then this is the tutorial for you. My name's Lame. This is just a quick unscripted tutorial on how to add the VRCLens package into your 3.0 avatar for VRChat. This is a paid asset, which I will link to in the description. And I'm also going under the assumption that you know how to somewhat configure and upload 3.0 avatars. So we're going to start off with this test avatar here. I'm going to go ahead and bring my package in, which, by the way, at the time of recording, this package is the version 1.3.10. They do update it every now and then, so keep an eye on that. And they tend to add little features here and there. Doesn't take very long, and you should see it here. You'll see VRCLens. So let's start off by going into the prefabs folder, and you'll want this thing here, which is called VRCLens. So you'll just want to drag and drop that into your hierarchy, but you do not want it to be attached to your avatar. You want this to be separate, so not like this. You want it to be off the avatar completely. So just not attached to anything. Next, you'll want to grab your avatar here and drag it over into target avatar. So there's your avatar there. You can choose between left or right hand control for VR. I tend to leave this on right. You can also do a desktop mode, but we're not going to be going into that today. This is focusing around VR mostly. You can choose the amount of blur that you get, but the higher amounts of blur you go for and the quality of blur, it's going to tax your GPU quite heavily. So I would recommend maybe experimenting with this and seeing which one works best for you. If you have a weaker PC, you might want to choose one of these options down here. Of course, I usually go for the top one because I've got a pretty powerful computer, but even with that, it tends to lag a little bit. Now, what you want to do here is start to position the camera on your avatar. So of course, my avatar is a pretty standard size for a human. If you've got small little lollies or something like that, which is completely understandable, or maybe an Archie's, they're all tiny avatars. You can move these things around. So for the camera, you want to position it roughly on your hand where you would probably hold it. For this bar here, so this bar, you'll probably want to move it just into your eyes. So just touching your eyes, because this will act as a focus point for an autofocus system. And this little thing here is an autofocus like stylus. So you'll be able to interact with the touchscreen using this. So we'll just sort of position it as an extension of your pointer finger. That seems to be the best way to go. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. An optional side little thing that you can do is for the camera. So there's options here to rotate the camera. So the reason I would suggest doing this is just to prevent your hand from cramping mostly. So for example, if you were to grab your phone out and hold it on the side, like as if it were this camera, you'll probably find that you don't hold it straight. It's actually tilted forward slightly. So to do that, you can just change this parameter here. I'd probably change this to about maybe, I don't know, 105. You can experiment with this a little bit. I'm just going to go with 100 for now. You can also change the scale. So if your avatar is very small, very large, you can change this. So if I say set this to 3, you'll see the camera gets very large. I'm going to just keep it at 1.5 as the default, since I'm a pretty standard size humanoid. Now the next part is a lot of optional features. So if you're familiar with Avatar 3.0, you'll know that you have a limited amount of parameters that you have on each avatar. So if you have a lot of those taken up already, you may need to turn some of this off. I'm going to turn all of it on. So I'm going to go ahead and tick all of these, all the bits and pieces. And you'll see here it actually tells you how many parameters you have used and how many you have left on your avatar. This one is completely blank, so yeah, there's nothing in there to get in the way right now. You may want to put this on a completely different avatar altogether if you want all the features. The focal length, so these are the default settings, so you can choose your focal length, which is basically your default zoom. I would I would say probably 17 to 24 is a good, starting spot. I like it a little bit wider so I can fit in some background. Your aperture is how much blur in the background you have by default. So f1.4 would be the most blur. f22 would be basically no blur. I usually keep mine around 2.8 or 2. Depth of field, I leave that on by default. Auto exposure is very nice. It brightens up the scene in really dark maps. You may want to turn that off and do it manually if you like. Auto HDR, I would recommend just leaving this on. I find it tends to produce nicer looking images, but you can always toggle that off once you're in game. And the third grid, if you're a photographer like me, you may want this turned on, but I find it clutters up the screen a little bit, so I leave that off and turn it on when I need to. Down under advanced settings where it says target menu, so this will be your avatar's menu. So if you go into, so we click on our avatar, so you got your VRC expressions menu here, that's the one we're looking for. So we can take that and drag it into our target menu. So this will automatically insert all of the menus for the VRCLens, which is really, really nice. I recommend leaving an add disable button on, because without it, the only way to turn off the camera is to reset your expressions on your avatar, which will also reset other parameters that aren't related to the VRCLens as well. So it's nice to have that there. I would ignore reduced draw calls. It does optimize it a little bit, but it can cause issues. So unless you're having some issues with performance, I would probably just leave that alone. Okay, but other than that, I think we're looking pretty good. Oh, I might just move that down a little bit. Nope, that's looking pretty nice. So you got that on the eyes, you got the stylus on the pinky, on the pointer finger, and your camera is, it's close to your hand, but it's not in your hand, because you don't want anything to be covering the screen. You want to be able to see that. So yeah, just position it close to, but not quite on your hand. All right, once we're done, we'll just hit apply VRC lens. And that'll load for a second. Cool. And if that's worked, you'll see on your avatar, you'll see VRC lens, and in your armature, there'll be various other things like pickup, pickup A, pickup B, all these kind of things will be there. So if you see that, then this should have worked and you're ready to upload your avatar. So I will go ahead and upload this avatar, and then we'll jump over into VRChat, and I'll go through all the features and how to use it. If you want to just play with it yourself, then that'll be the end of the tutorial here. But for everybody else, let's jump over into VRChat.
Hello there. So we're in VR, we've uploaded our avatar with the VRCLens package attached to it that we just did. So let's go through how to use it and some of the features involved. So to start out, we'll bring out our photo camera. And this is important because this will act as our trigger to actually capture the pictures. However, we won't be capturing the image that we see here. So what we'll do is we'll go into our expressions menu where we see VRC lens, and we will enable that. And you'll be able to see that now this screen has been overtaken with whatever this camera sees. So basically you hold onto this camera and just click it to take pictures, but it's going to capture whatever I'm pointing at through this lens. So I hope that makes sense. So make sure, I just usually hold this behind me somewhere, while I'm taking pictures, and use it as a trigger basically. So let's get into some of the features. So one of my favorite ones is quick selfie. So I'm going to go ahead and press that, and you'll see that it has sort of appeared out in front of me here. So you can kind of just use it like a selfie cam, and you can also hold it to get different levels of zoom to put it further away, which is kind of nice. So what I like to do is I might just stand back a little bit here. Whoops. I like to do quick selfie and then drop it. So I use the drop button there right under it, and now it has been dropped in the VRChat world, and I can walk away. I can go and do whatever I need to do, which is really, really nice. So that's all well and good, which leads me into the autofocus point. So you'll see there the autofocus point. So if I can move that with my stylus that we set up earlier, whoops. So I can move that around. So let me get back in front of the camera real quick. There we go. So I can move this behind me and you'll see now it focuses on the background where the focus point is, or I can move that back onto my face. And that will dynamically change depending on whether I'm standing in front of that focus point, as well as how close I get will affect that as well. So there is an autofocus system. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we'll just go through some of the other features on the main page. So we got settings. So depth of field, this will actually just turn off the blur altogether, so you won't see any blur in the background. Portrait, kind of good, I suppose, if you want to like do some pictures in portrait mode, or I don't know, upload it to Instagram or something. Stabilize is an interesting one. So all stabilize does is when you're in handheld mode and it's not dropped, it will sort of smooth the camera out a little bit, which I would argue is probably more useful for taking videos, but it is nice to have there. Whoops, wrong button. OSD display. So OSD display lets you turn the interface on and off. So if you just want to have it just the image without worrying about all the other junk on screen, you can do that. You know, there's just a few little options in here, like the grid overlay, all that kind of stuff. Filters. I guess if you're into filters, that's cool. I don't use them. They're there if you want it. Auto HDR. So I leave auto HDR on. Sorry, I can't even talk properly. I leave auto HDR on by default because I find it gives you just nice images most of the time. But you may want to toggle that on and off and see if it works in different, better or worse in different scenarios. Let's go to auto exposure. So once again, this just auto exposes. It takes a best guess at how bright the scene should be. So this is actually quite a dark world in itself, and it's chosen to brighten that up quite a lot, and it actually looks pretty nice. It's not bad. All right, cool. So we'll go into oh well, there's also zoom. I think that should be pretty self-explanatory. You know, if half of your humor like me is just zooming way too close into people's faces, then this is the feature for you. But you can get some pretty interesting shots with that. Let's go into the advanced section. So we'll go into attach. So if I hit attach, what that'll do is that will attach it to wherever I look. So you can just worry about taking pictures and just look around if you want to do that. So we'll turn that back off. Aperture just affects how blurry the background is. So if you have a look here, so I'll just focus on my face. You'll notice that as I turn that down, the background gets blurrier. So you can adjust that very specifically how blurry you want that to be. Exposure, so we have auto exposure, but you can also just adjust it yourself if you find it's too bright or it's too dark. Sometimes the auto exposure doesn't get it quite right, so you can turn that down if you want. Manual focus, pretty self-explanatory as well. That'll just let you manually set the focus. I'm going to just turn that back down so you can actually see that a bit better. So yeah, I can adjust the focus. And what I might do, I might just actually drop that there real quick, so my arm gets a little bit tired holding that up for too long. You also have this option here, avatar autofocus. This one I use a lot. So if we turn this on, what you'll notice is that it should track the focus of my character no matter where it is. So even if I get really close, it'll focus on my avatar's face, which is due to that white bar that we added to our avatar. Cool. So let's go into the drone mode, which I would argue is more useful for video people or getting just like really wide scenery shots. So we can do a couple of things here. So we've got hand rotate. So hand rotate lets us, as it says, rotate our hand to spin the camera around and position it in the world. So yeah, you can just sort of roll your hand around and get it into a position you like. You have change angle, which lets you do basically the same thing, but with your thumb pad. So whether that be a joystick or the touchpad on HTC, which is what I'm using. So you can just kind of, spin that around however you want. You got track self. So it uses the autofocus point to also track you. So I can actually walk all the way over here, and you'll see here it's actually following me around the room. So this can be kind of nice if you want to like maybe walk around a little bit and have it follow you. You've got track pivot. So by default, the pivot is in your left hand or the hand with your stylus for the right-handed operation. You can then also drop the pivot. So if I hit drop pivot, you'll see now that there's a ball in the world there. So if I use the move pivot option, like the joystick, I can actually make it fly around the world, and you'll notice that the camera will follow it. So yeah, you can sort of fly it up somewhere and maybe have it take a picture of a tree or whatever you want. But we're not going to track the pivot anymore. Let's bring it back to me. I'm going to hit track self and bring it back down. So it's back on me again. Cool. And the last one, which I like the most, and you can use this in combination with other things, is the move camera. So because it's drone mode, yeah, you can literally fly it around the map. So I can bring my screen here and actually use it like a little remote control screen, and I can fly it around the map, which is very, very nice. Like I said, if you're into like drone flying at all and videography, very useful. But then I can turn on track self and move the camera, and it will try and keep me in the center of the frame. It's going to try and keep me as the focus point. Yeah, and you can just sort of fly it around and get some cool, you know, almost cinematic shots, which is very, very nice. Very nice indeed. I've been having a lot of fun with these kinds of features. Something else which I may not have mentioned is I do occasionally use this camera on stream. So you can actually use this for stream cameras as well. So if you change this from photo camera to stream camera, so it looks the same, but what I'll do is I'll quickly change over my scene to the VRChat capture. So I'll just quickly do that now. There it is. So now whatever the camera sees is what will be shown to your stream, or if you're using it to record videos, you can also do it for that as well. So I can actually just bring it in here nice and close, and you can get some interesting backgrounds for your stream. It's a bit pretty, you know, if you're not moving around a whole lot, yeah, you can attach it to your head and then just talk, and it's a little bit nicer to look at, and you can adjust the exposure, which is very nice as well. You might not even use the blurry background, you might just use it to brighten up the scene a little bit with the exposure compensation. But yeah, other than that, that's basically it for the most part. I hope this tutorial helped you somewhat and opens up some creative possibilities for you in terms of photography and videography. I love photography. It's a hobby of mine outside of VRChat, and it was so restrictive to have the VRChat camera in VRChat be so basic. But now we have things like this with Avatar 3.0, which is fantastic. So yeah, if it helped you, give the video a thumbs up. Hopefully some other people will be able to find it, or you know, drop a comment if you have any questions, or drop by my stream as well if you want to ask me directly. I stream most days of the week, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. See you, everybody.